I've been live for a minute and what? Boy, this week has been trying me and testing my patience. Six people in here, bro. What? This is crazy. This is insanity. Um, Hold on, y'all. Nick's in the thing. I'm about to add. So let me tell y'all. If you're like, oh, Josh, your camera sucks. Tell me why. I go to my I hate everything. Jesus. I go to my ring light. I'm trying to screw the camera on, and let's get into this intro before I start crying. I'll explain later, but I'm literally about to break down and cry because this is too much. All right. Ugh. I gotta breathe. I gotta get into the headspace. Okay. Ugh. All right. Family, welcome to another installment of Jammore Interviews, and I'm, of course, your host, Josh, aka Jammore. My guest today can be heard as the voice of Harangi in the popular hit video game series Call of Duty. However, you may also know him as the voice of the Super Flock and Bossy Bear, Jinho Bin and Lookism, and that one masked manager in Squid Game. In addition to his incredible talent as an actor, he is a writer and also streams regularly on Twitch. Strap on your bulletproof vest and clip on your parachutes as we dive into the world of the man himself, Nick Martineau. If I said that wrong, please kill me because I can't do this anymore. Can you see it? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Josh. What an intro.
Yay.
Ring light be damned.
There we go. Hey, it's so good to see you, man. Oh my God. I've been trying to do this. A little backstory, I've been trying to do this with Nick for like God knows how long. Jesus. I've been trying to do this for a minute, but like he kept being like, oh, no, I got this cool project here, this cool project here. I was like, I want to talk about all of that. And then stuff just happened, but we're finally here. Apologies for my lateness. I had a VO session, so that I did not think would go that long. So
I hope it went well. We've been talking about doing this since, was it late last year or like January?
Either late last year or since January.
It's been a long time. Yeah.
It is, and
finally I made it. We're here at Jammore. Let's get into it.
But yes, thank you so much. It's an incredible honor to be able to be speaking to you today and just asking my questions. I'm always honored and humbled to be able to bring on anyone new to the platform. And I just hope you have an amazing time. Thank you, everyone who has joined me in Nick's conversation. I hope you have a great time here, Nick, and I hope to just make this an enjoyable experience for you.
No, the honor is all mine. So I was interested in talking to you just because I had seen your interviews with, Corey Burton and who was the other dude? That Call of Duty. You did some other Call of Duty ones, right?
James C. Burns. He played in. I suppose a lot of Call of Duty people. There's James C. Burns.
Matthew Yang King was the other one I saw. Yeah.
Matt Yang King. Yes. Oh, that is probably the interview that all of my friends talk about. I also love that one because in that interview, I love voice acting so much. Obviously, I have a whole channel dedicated to it. But he broke down how he created the voice of Liu Kang. And I just thought it was so intricate and so detailed. And it was so cool. And he did that with multiple voices. He talked about how, I think he was talking about how he has some Korean influences on his voice for the Atom. And I just thought that was like, my jaw was dropping constantly through that interview. So that was a fun one. And then Corey Burton, 3 hours. He's my best friend and my mentor.
3 hours. Oh my gosh.
3 hours. That was so, bro. When I tell you that took me like, I feel like it took me at least a week to edit because that's because I had like school stuff to do. But
well, I'm sure he's like a wealth of information, so it's like everything he says is treasure, and so hard to cut that down.
Oh, absolutely. Everything he said was I just took in and soaked in. I'm obviously a huge Transformers fan, as you can see by my illustrious collection behind me. Shockwave and then Star Wars. Oh, my God. Cad Bane. Oh, God. It could go on forever and ever. Great guy. But let's go into you, my friend. It's all about you and the celebration of your great talent. But before I get into the questions, just a nice little icebreaker. I love music with all of my heart. If I was to turn around my camera to the other side of my room, you've probably seen this background, but I have like a whole dedicated shelf dedicated to vinyls and CDs. So this year, there's some pretty cool anniversaries for some albums. So when I name drop this album for you, tell me if you listen to the band, if anything important happened during that year that the album released, any memory that that album invokes, just anything at all. So the album I want to talk to you about is that tomorrow, actually, funnily enough, 3 Days Grace dropped their self-titled album. 3 Days Grace is of course headlined by frontman Adam Gontier, and it features hit songs like I Hate Everything About You and Burn, one of their most popular albums. Do you listen to 3 Days Grace? Are you into that type of music? Does 2003 bring back a specific memory or anything like that?
I'm not remembering their music off the top of my head. I've heard the name, and you said the names of some of their songs, but I just don't hear the melody in my head at the moment. 2003, though, that was the year my brother was born. That was the year the 2003 Ninja Turtles started coming out. I don't know, a lot of stuff in 2003, I guess.
A big one, of course, being your brother's birth. That's awesome. He would be 20, right? Yes, he would be 20.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. I suck at math. Don't think I'm really bad at math, but yeah, that's awesome. What type of music are you into by chance?
I listen to a lot of everything, but lately I've been listening to a lot more film score. We've been going to concerts. Like we were in Europe recently and went to a Hans Zimmer concert. We saw him live.
No way.
Recently went to the Hollywood Bowl and saw John Williams live.
And you didn't invite me. I'm mad. I'm
sorry,
angry.
man. Next time. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm into film scores too. This year for film scores has been so interesting. Of course, we just had Across the Spider-Verse with the impeccable score by Daniel Pemberton. So good. And then people are raving about Ludwig's score for Oppenheimer that just came out today. Everyone can see it. So I love film scores just as the next person. And, people don't talk about it enough, but film scores are very important to like not only just music, but to like the actual structure of a film, a show, or a funny cartoon, anything at all. It's so integral to it. And I just have such a massive love and respect for every single composer who does their work. I mean, oh my God, it's incredible. Like you name some John Williams, Hans Zimmer, there's a lot of great ones out there. So that's awesome you got to see him live.
No, I appreciate you saying that about film composers. My girlfriend's a film composer, and if you look to my side over here, she's got her setup here, and this is basically her setup in her office, and I just work out of it sometimes and stream from here. So
that's awesome, dude. Oh my gosh. We're both pop culture fans here. We all love pop culture, and the best thing about that is the origin story. I love a good origin story. So let's start getting into you. Let's go back to your past and your childhood. What would you say are some points in your childhood that led you to becoming an actor, entertainer, all that you could look back on?
So when I was a kid, I was really big into cartoons like everybody else. And I drew a lot of flip books and did a lot of artwork and cartooning on pencil and paper. And that led me to filmmaking because, what is filmmaking or animation really? It's 24 still images per second. And so I was more interested in the filmmaking and the animation side of things, the behind the scenes stuff. Growing up in a small town in Maryland, not a lot of kids wanted to act in the projects that I was making. It was just my small group of friends and I. And so I found myself appearing in them more than I was necessarily comfortable with at the beginning. And over time, sort of embraced I'm not going to call it a talent at that point, but it was, I embraced the potential I had to be a performer. How about that?
I'm the same way. I grew up just doing, theater. I tap danced a lot growing up. Unfortunately, I had to stop that because kids are kids and then bully you and call you all these weird names. But I relate to that so much. Just playing with toys, being inspired by cartoons, and that's why I love voice acting so much. Is because like I grew up primarily with like animation. I didn't really go out to the movies that much. It was Dora, Go Diego Go. All those like prime time Nick Jr. shows. I just looked up to that. Of course, Transformers later on, and just how much of an inspiration that series is on me. So I definitely relate to you in that regard. You were talking about starring in your own films and stuff, and of course, you have an on-camera background, which I just think is awesome. But I'm more so interested in, just talk about how you got introduced to the voice acting world and led you down this journey of voicing some of these great characters.
So I think I was probably in middle school when my voice dropped. I was probably like 13, 14, and found this new flexibility with my voice, like this ability to impersonate my friends, my teachers, sort of create their voices out of scratch. And so I also didn't like the sound of my voice at that age. And so I was probably dropping it an octave and speaking in this fake register, and that was my voice at the time. And so, those were the early days of me getting practice using my voice as a voice actor. And so, when I originally moved out to LA, I moved out here to pursue on camera. I had an on-camera training background and all of that. But with the pandemic specifically, and a lot of live action production being shut down, I sort of pivoted gears and started doing more of the voiceover stuff. Not because I hadn't been interested before, but because the opportunities opened up and it was a good time to sort of do what I had always been interested in and had the skill set for. And so that's why I'm lucky enough to sit here and talk to you today, because we made that pivot.
Oh man, dude, it's interesting. We're talking about this, how you didn't like your voice and stuff. And it's so interesting that so many people don't like their voice. And it just goes to, talking about some things that we're insecure about are usually the best things about ourselves. You know what I'm saying? You have a great voice. I have a great voice. We're both voice actors, and we act and do our jobs. And it's just so interesting to see you make a career out of something that you were initially, ashamed of. I won't say ashamed of. I ain't gonna put words in your mouth, but something that you weren't comfortable with. You know what I'm saying? I just think that's a beautiful transition.
I mean, it's that thing a lot of people can relate to, right? Like you hear your voice in your head, and it's, resonating through your muscles and your bones and all of that, and it sounds fine to you because you hear it all the time. Then the minute you hear it on the answering machine, you're like, that's not me. Who's that? I don't sound that nasally. I don't sound that high pitched. I don't sound that stupid, right? That's what everybody says to themselves. And so, I think with exposure to it comes acceptance, and you realize it's not so bad, and I'm biased against myself for no good reason, and I don't have a reason to be self-conscious about it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. I used to have that thing when I would watch my videos, and I just get so frustrated because I'd have to hear my voice, and I'm like, oh God, please, no. But then it's like you get comfortable to it. You start learning about your voice. I think if anyone out there wants to be a voice actor, I think that's an important thing, is just learning how your voice works and learning the tools and the tricks to the trade to really dive deep into some of these characters, really dive into that. Speaking of diving deep, you come from a rich history. You are Korean American. So how would you say the culture of growing up around other Korean people helps influence your art as an entertainer?
I would say, broadly, when I talk about my acting or writing, there's some kind of East Asian influence in there. I come from a biracial background. I'm half Korean, half white. And so pretty much anything I do is some synthesis of the East and the West. Sometimes in ways I can't fully explain or express, but you'll find that that's the case. With the projects that I work on that are more specifically East Asian or have that cultural influence at the forefront, I have to draw on my experiences constantly in order to come up with that perspective or that sound. People ask me, where did I learn Horangi's voice? Horangi is based off my mom. Not that my mom sounds like Horangi, obviously, but that's where I learned the accent. Because anytime I look at a line and think, how would Horangi say this? I sort of lean my ear in and sort of remember my mom's accent and the way she uses phonetics, and then sort of create Horangi's voice based off that.
That is awesome. Hearing your
Yeah.
influences for these characters is great, especially your mom herself. That's really sweet and really awesome. Let's and now we could like start diving into some of these characters you've always. First off, I want to start with Bossy Bear with the Super Flock. I was very interested and intrigued by this role because I'd read your post on Instagram talking about how you had to take a singing coach for this one.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, it was optional. I chose to do it because as confident as I was that I could come up with four distinct voices for the characters, I wasn't so confident that I could come up with four different singing voices for the characters, only because up to that point, I'd only ever sung in my register. I wasn't the most flexible singer. And so I was like, being a mediocre karaoke singer is not going to cut it for me this time. Let's take some singing lessons and sort of expand the range a bit so that I can play in all four corners of the super flock.
Do you have any dreams of being a singer? Do we have any Nick music dropping soon?
No, I don't have any aspirations to be a pop star or anything like that, but it's certainly opened my horizons to playing more characters that might incorporate music into their performance. So whether it's a musical or a singer type character, and so I find myself more comfortable with auditioning for a lot of those types of roles now. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you got that opportunity and to be able to expand your range as a talent. I think that's very important for a lot of artists, especially right now with everyone's attention being diverted to different things. It's just expanding our range as artists and what we do and what we can help bring to the world by learning new tricks so we can add them and just make great projects from our work. I just think that's a really amazing thing, because like right now I'm about to take guitar lessons with my friend and about to take vocal lessons too. And I just want to expand. I want to expand my education as a talent so I don't stay stagnant and I don't just keep making the same thing over and over again. I feel like some artists can unfortunately sometimes lend to themselves leading into that rut where they're just kind of making the same thing over and over and just kind of gets tiring. I think what's great about being an artist is that you could like change. You know what I'm saying? You could see like an individual artist change. Recently, Avenged Sevenfold, one of my favorite rock bands of all time, released an album called Life is But a Dream, my favorite album of the year. But there's a lot of contention in the A7X community because it's so different from a lot of the other products they make. Now, I could argue that all of their each individual albums are very different and y'all are not paying attention, but this one is like really, really different. And I think it's so awesome where you can see that dichotomy and you can see that change. You can see the different influences they pull from. I just think it's great,
Yeah, for sure.
I want to get a little bit just to pivot back to talk about, your past and stuff. How did you discover you were a good writer or wanted to start pursue writing? Like, were you good in English class? Did you love writing essays? Anything like that at all?
I mean, I always enjoyed creative writing. I came to love expository and argumentative writing for different reasons, but I always loved creative writing primarily. And so, I've been writing stories since I was a kid. All those terrible short films we made when I was in middle school and high school, I wrote those too. I don't look back fondly on them, but they were learning experiences and ways for me to grow as a writer and an artist. And so I took creative writing when I was in college. And at some point during my career as an actor, I started writing screenplays, spec stuff, just for my own pleasure and things that I thought I could produce, because at times working in this industry, you feel like you're waiting by the phone or waiting for certain types of roles to sort of land in your lap. And I wanted to write the roles for actors that I knew that I thought would fill a niche that didn't exist yet.
Incredible work there, my friend. If you had to give advice to any of us artists out here who want to create, because you were, of course, speaking like a lot of times it can feel like in Hollywood or just auditioning for stuff and creating, it can feel like you're just waiting. And it just feels like a lot of the times, like, I don't know, it just doesn't come fast enough. You know what I'm saying? Have you ever felt like that where you're just like, damn, I'm tired of waiting. I want something to pop off, or, I wish something I did, I wish they called me back for the audition or anything like that. What advice would you give to anyone listening?
I guess the only advice I can give is probably the same advice everybody else gives, which is, have a thick skin and be patient. Work on other things in the meantime. We're not defined by the time we spend waiting by the phone, but we are defined by the time we spend not growing as artists, right?
Ooh, I like that. I like that one a lot.
I just came up with that one. No.
Oh, I love when brilliance comes to the Jantmore page, man. Oh my God, I love it. Yes, I definitely agree with that, because that's one thing I've started to do myself is because I'm a writer too. Right now, I'm working on a sort of weird short film right now because of course we're going to talk about this later, but of course with the SAG-AFTRA strike and the WGA strike, I'm not going to get a lot of interviews. I'm not going to be able to interview a lot of talents, rightfully so, because they're fighting for fair wages and stuff like that. So right now I'm pivoting to more talking, on my social media pages. It's talking about music more and talking about how films come to be. And I want to start doing stuff like that. And I also want to put my own talent out in the world. I've released one short film in my entire career of being an artist, and I want to change that. So I definitely relate to you on being like, we are defined by the time we don't grow as artists, because I feel like I've been in this stagnant place of, oh, here's a YouTube video, write the script, do this. I want to change it up. It goes back to what I was saying. I'm taking guitar lessons, I want to take vocal lessons, I want to take more acting classes too. So
I mean, even for me, like even as a semi-established actor, I'm still defined by that time that I don't spend being productive. We're on strike right now. It'd be very easy for me to sit around and just be like, oh, we're on strike, or spend all day thinking about the strike. But this is really an opportunity for me to get into shape, do more interviews with people like you to talk about the issues that are important, and do more writing of my personal projects. Obviously, I can't take work for hire, but I can write my personal projects and again continue to grow as an artist. So,
okay, quick question. Yeah. Absolutely. Quick question. So with the strike, does that mean you guys can't audition for stuff, or like what? Like, okay, how does this work? Like, are y'all not allowed to audition, or like what's going on with that?
I can audition for projects under SAG-AFTRA contracts that are non-struck. So not every SAG-AFTRA category has been struck. There are categories that I can audition for. That said, very little's in production anyway. So even if you get cast in something, you're not immediately going to work. You're going to be sitting around waiting for the strike to resolve, or for production to pick back up, or something like that. And so, what few auditions are going around right now are not going to put you to work anyway. Yeah.
Interesting. I've been very intrigued by how voice actors play into this. Of course, I had an interview last week with the great JP Carlack where we spoke about that. Just a little
Wile E. Coyote.
Yes. Oh my gosh. All those great roles. I love JP. He was so nice.
And the boss bear. Not the boss bear. The boss baby.
Boss baby. But bro said boss bear. Now we think
that's the wrong show.
Wrong show, right? To talk more about your writing, I was looking on your page, such a wealth of information on your page about you. There was this animated show you wrote called the Tenements of Fenmore Place. Did I get that right?
Tenements of Fenmore Place. Yeah, the Fenmore is like an amalgamation of my last name and a buddy's last name. But yeah, the Tenements of Fenmore Place. It was this adult animated sitcom I wrote a couple years ago. We pitched it. A lot of big executives saw it. We had a cast of attached actors and guys like Devin Werkheiser from Ned's Declassified, and we had Arden Cho from the Teen Wolf Show, and so it was kind of cool. It didn't go anywhere, but it's always something I'll treasure. It's always something in the portfolio, and I've used it as a portfolio piece to get meetings, and it was definitely a great learning experience for me because it was like my first fully fleshed out comedy pilot I ever wrote. And so since I've written more and gotten better and writing more dramatic stuff now. And so, yeah, learned a lot from it. Development is a whole other world. If you ever have like development people on this on this show, oh my gosh, like that's hours and hours of other information that you've never heard. It's just like a whole other thing.
What happened to the show? Like, what happened? Why didn't it get picked up? Was no one like, how does that even work? Like, what happened to the show?
So how adult animation works is, and your audience will realize this if you've ever seen an adult animated show. It's often more about which celebrities you have attached and how many people are going to watch as a result of the popularity of those individuals, more than it is about the content of the show. I mean, there are great adult animated shows, and some of them have been around forever, like The Simpsons and Family Guy, great shows. But there are others that last for a couple years or 1 or 2 seasons, and I don't know. I don't want to get into it too much or sound bitter, but it's essentially a popularity contest in terms of getting those projects made.
No, I absolutely can understand and feel your frustration, especially in that regard. I've been extremely upset, and I want to say just disturbed at how I've seen how the voice acting industry has been handled. It does feel a lot of times, like you said, like a popularity contest for oh my god, can we get Paul Rudd in this role? Oh my god, no, can I get Chris Pratt? Can I get Timothy Chalamet as the voice of a dog, and we're recasting, get a ring of the original person who voiced this dog, and then he comes in, gives a half-assed performance, and then it sucks. Oh my god, yes, let me pay him $20 million for it. Like, bro, like, come on. Like, there's so many phenomenal people who I've spoken to on this platform who are professionally trained, have dedicated 40 plus years to this craft. And now they're at a point in their careers where, since they don't have a big social media following, or some hell don't even have a social media following at all, they're not getting looked at for these roles. They can't be picked for these roles. And I just think it's extremely unfair. How the hell are we going to find any new talent? Then we have this whole thing with AI. So now we're just going to AI people's voices. We're not going to give new talents a chance. It's just so, I'm just so frustrated about how the industry just seems to love big numbers and likes and this, that, and the third. It's like, that's not talent. Just because I have 2 million followers doesn't mean I'm the most talented man on the earth. And what companies don't realize about this, just because 2 million people follow you doesn't mean too many million people will see it. You'll probably get maybe 30,000 likes, 30,000 people will see it. That's not how the algorithm doesn't work like that,
Right.
So I just really wish these companies would get that in their head, that big numbers don't equal talent, and sometimes they don't equal money. You know what I'm saying? Like, just because Chris Pratt is on a Super Mario movie, still pissed off he was Mario. I don't care. Should have given it to Charles Martinet, especially since he was in the same movie and did a completely different voice. Yeah. But Mario didn't make $1 billion because Chris Pratt was in it. It made $1 billion because Mario is one of the most popular characters in gaming history ever, and it had a decent amount of buzz around it. It's not. I mean, I'm sure Chris Pratt and Anna Taylor-Joy, who, anyways, played a role into getting some of that money, but it's not like the main driver, and it's just frustrating for me and creatives like you who just want to create and make our art. And you have to create, you have to go to different outlets. You have to have TikTok, you have to have Twitter, you have to have a YouTube, you have to post reels. It's just like, sometimes it gets daunting. You ever feel that way? Like, you just want to create, you don't want to have to make 50 million reels and YouTube videos just for you to get some sort of it. It just gets so draining. It's
for sure. I'm still growing as an individual who's continuing to learn about social media and develop his presence in that way. When we did Fenmar Place, I did not have public-facing social media. That's certainly going to be one of the things that negatively impacts a show being picked up like that, especially versus another comparably competent show concept that has a creator with 1 million followers attached, or even hundreds of thousands of followers attached. And so I started having public-facing social media late last year. Everybody's been super welcoming. It's luckily been a less daunting experience than I originally feared it would be. Only because I have really nice fans and not too many trolls. And when we have trolls, they get chewed up. But
How does it
But
feel to be able to say you have fans and to have come so far to where people like actively care and want to follow your career?
it's pretty crazy. Yeah, like the shirt I'm wearing right now is just one of our inside jokes that we have as a fan community. This is certified whore short for Horangi. It's the name we call Horangi fans. They voted on it on Twitter. I
I
didn't say
saw
it.
that. I saw that.
Yeah. And so no, it's just it's been incredibly fun and fulfilling, and I enjoy meeting people at cons and getting the DMs and people tagging me in all the fan art, uh, often with my face on it, and so it's very humbling. I don't take it for granted, and um, I hope I do the people that care about the work that I put out proud.
That's all we can hope. Oh, I thought you froze. I was like, whoa. That's all we can hope for as artists. And like, dude, I need you to come to a Georgia convention, bro. I'm right
Oh, is that where
here.
you're at?
Yes, come to Atlanta. I can show you around. Like, look, just give me a whole thing. Like,
You know, this is for you and for anybody in your audience. If there's a con you want one of your favorite artists at, if you want me or anybody else at, you can go on your convention's page and then request that talent. Uh, it's more likely that you'll get the talent that way than if we or our reps reach out to the conventions and go, please bring our artist to your convention. It's much more likely for it to happen if the fans make a big deal out of it. And so, yeah, I encourage you to go on your local cons page, look at the contact forms. They usually have like a talent request form or something like that. You can request anybody.
oh, shoot.
You can request Elon Musk. You can request Brad Pitt, whatever.
Oh, shoot, man. I'm finna use 15 different emails just to get you up in there, Nick. I
All right,
got
let's
you.
do it.
One transition into your dubbing work, which is another semi-interesting thing. Of course, you did do the dub work for the Square Mask Manager and Squid Game, and then of course you have Lookism. Then you have Heavenly Delusion, which are three big pieces of art you've worked on.
Yeah.
What has dubbing added to your bag of tricks as an entertainer?
What has dubbing added to my bag of tricks as an entertainer? One thing it's done is it's forced me to sort of think about how to create an original performance within the confines of someone else's original performance. That's especially true for any live action dubbing work I do, because you're literally matching every facial expression they do, but sort of trying to bring yourself to it. Because if you just parrot them, then, you know, much like an actual parrot, you're not actually breathing life into the performance in another language. You're just sort of mimicking them, but saying different words. And so that's never the goal with live action dubbing. You have to recreate somebody's performance, but bring something of your own to it so that it actually makes the translation over into another language, as opposed to just saying different words, but mimicking their performance. Because then you just create, you know, an even more shallow version of their performance. You know, they say that, you know, dubbing will never top the original. I believe that to be the case. But if you go into it with the mindset of simply trying to mimic the actor you're dubbing, you're going to create probably the most shallow performance you possibly can.
I definitely agree with you there, of course, obviously, but I kind of hate the whole discourse around dub versus sub, and I hate how ugly it could get.
I'm talking about live action.
Yeah. No, yeah. But I'm just talking like all around in general, and I wanted to ask you about this because I get very frustrated when there is someone dub performance comes out, especially with anime, and people are just like extremely negative and mean about it. Especially as someone whose first major like mainstream role will probably be an anime dub. I'm very I'm very disheartened by it, and I don't like it. And I think the discourse around dub versus sub also leads to the abuse of talent, you know, because a lot of the time dub performers don't get paid a whole lot. They have to do a ton of conventions just to meet ends meet. I say that dub work is the equivalent of like being a restaurant worker. And what I mean by that is like in a negative sense, but it's like, you know how like when, or a waiter, you know how like waiters, they have like, of course, the minimum that they're paid, but they get a bulk of their money from like tips and stuff like that. I
Which
would
is
say,
what you mean the conventions and the signings.
yeah, you know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah.
want better treatment for dub performers. Because there's some great people out here who do dub work. You do it. There's who have I spoken to? Kent Williams has done a lot of Dragon Ball characters. I love him. He's great. Damon Clark has done dub work. Steve Bloom, Yuri Lowenthal, like all these people have touched dub work. And just to know that no matter how good you are as a performer, people are just gonna instantly hate it because it's always like, oh, you're doing dub, I hate you, da 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 da. When I just wish people could open their ears to see the brilliance that is behind a lot of these performances. J. Michael Tatum is phenomenal as Captain Erevin in Attack on Titan. Matthew Mercer is phenomenal as Levi. Brooks Peppenbrook is great as Aaron for Attack on Titan. I don't know. What is your take on all of that? Like the whole dub versus sub and people who get hate from it? Because I know you got some hate for your dub work. Maybe. I don't know. Have you got any hate for your dub work at all?
I've never gotten, all right, maybe I haven't had my eyes open wide enough, but I haven't gotten any hate on any of the dub work I've done personally directed at me. Squid Game was probably the most visible dub I've ever worked on. It was the one that had Wall Street Journal articles published about the quality of our dub. Some people did not like it, understandably. When I said earlier that I care to honor the original live action source more than the dub and thought they were better. What I meant was that a lot of the time when these dubs are produced, pretty much all of the time when these dubs are produced, the original creators are not consulted with at all. It's typically outsourcing work. So the footage gets sent to a studio overseas. The dubbing studio takes a look at it, hires their own actors, brings them in. Zero consultation of the original writers, zero consultation of the directors, and then they put together a dub. There are times when the dub is so phenomenal that it is more entertaining than the original source. Dragon Ball Z is probably my favorite example of that, right? Sean Schemmel and the cast, and Chris Sabat, like they're all fantastic in their roles. To the point you made about conventions earlier, I heard in an interview Sean Schemmel said one time that he doesn't think he's made over $20,000 a year ever off of Dragon Ball Z from working on it, which is crazy. That obviously doesn't include the convention signings, but to think that he can be that good at the top of his game, an A-lister in the dubbing industry, and make that little off of working on the show, it's honestly criminal. But back to the point, yes, there are times when the dub is so good, in fact, that it is more entertaining and more beloved than the original source. That said, that's not true most of the time. To no fault of the actors who are coming in and seeing this footage for the first time and are being asked to breathe life into it as if they've read the scripts and work with the actual directors and have a cultural understanding of the material. But that's the reality of it. And I think a lot of people respond to the idea that dubs are often low budget. They're cobbled together last minute before the release of a product, and not a lot of money and effort goes into them, right? And so that's probably what the consumers are most likely responding to. And I don't fault them for that, because I know that as a viewer, I've felt that way too. I don't fault the actors for that issue. It's a larger systemic issue at play. But that's what it is. Did I answer your question?
You did. You did. It's all good, man. Nah. Do you think there's a way to maybe fix the perception of dubbing, or fix how it's done systematically, so there could be a better appreciation and love for dubbing as a whole? Or do you think it's just going to be stuck the way it is?
I mean, other than hiring directors who appreciate the source material to work on these dubs, I'm not so sure. I worked on a dub recently, Heavenly Delusion, for Hulu, Disney Plus if you're outside of the US. And it's gotten great reception because we work with a great team. We had a production manager from Disney in on a lot of the sessions, just sitting there to make sure that we got it right. And our director had read all of the manga and read the content that would be covered within our season and all of that. And there was so much passion poured into that one. And honestly, like I'm cynical to the point that I thought it would go unnoticed. I thought all of that hard work would unfortunately go unnoticed and people would just watch the sub anyway. But no, I mean, we had nerd trades just publishing articles about us and saying that the dub is really good. And I saw people on Reddit talking about it. And so I was honestly really happy with that and impressed and surprised that people took notice. And so that type of working environment is not the norm. It's more the exception than the rule. But the more we have dubs where people actually care about the source material rather than coming in last minute to cobble a localization product together because the studio paid them a bit of money to do it, the more we're going to get better art. And that's the case with anything. The more there's passion in the work, the better art you're going to get.
Bingo. And if greed is not at the center.
That's right.
Talking about greed, I want to talk about this before we end it with your great character from Call of Duty. The SAG-AFTRA WGA strike. It's interesting to hear every actor's story and for it to be so heartbreaking. Some people have been in beloved classics, beloved shows talking about, I've seen $0 from this. I've not gained any money from this. Residuals are not as big. Just to see how so many of us as artists and as talents constantly be abused and taken advantage of. You know what? Hollywood is a giant example of what corporations do to Americans around the country. They beat you. They treat you like you're nothing when you have all this talent, all this hard work. You know, I see some people on my job work so hard for the company, and I'm like, dude, do you realize that they don't care about you? You're a dollar sign to them. Why are you know what I'm saying? Like, what? They don't pay you enough for all the great work that you're doing for this company. And just to hear actors be like, hey, you know, I'm the same. I'm struggling to pay rent here. You know, I've been on this show, but I can't afford to take a break from acting. I always have to keep going. If I don't, I'm screwed. Yeah. It's so depressing. I can't even begin to break it down. You know what it is? It's depressing. It's sad. What is your whole take? And just talk a little bit about how the SAG-AFTRA WGA strike has affected you, not only as an entertainer, but as someone who is a consumer of this art as well.
I think it's created a slow year for everybody. Where there's not as much work to go around. Like we talked about earlier, it's a lot of sitting around and waiting by the phone. And so I'm trying to stay productive through it, encouraging other artists to do the same. If having a streaming subscription causes you to be more depressed about the shows you're not working on, then cancel your subscriptions, touch some grass, go outside, do whatever you need to do to stay sane.
Right.
But your question was, how has it affected
you as an entertainer, also who someone's actively participating in Hollywood, and also as someone who consumes this as an art form?
Oh, okay. So I basically answered the question then, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm just making sure here.
It is very heartbreaking to see this happen again. You know, everyone talks about the 2007 WGA strike and how impactful that was. Were you working actively during the writer's strike?
No,
okay.
I'm young enough. I'm 25. I moved to LA when I went in 2017, and so definitely was not working in 2007, 2008. I asked someone who was though. And they said that the major difference between this joint strike, and the WGA strike back then is the advent of social media. People weren't really talking about it on social media. There were no viral moments about the strike. But the sad downside of that virality is the polarization that comes with it. People sort of looking at the issue and saying, this is just an excuse for millionaires to become bigger millionaires or billionaires, when it's really not about that. It's about the working actors and making sure that the non-millionaires and the non-billionaires get their due.
100%. I support everyone who's on strike right now. I will say though, it's very interesting to see how like a lot of voice actors is still working. Obviously, it's because you guys are under a separate contract in comparison to all the live action and theatrical work. I just learned that.
So some of the work overlaps. I did additional voices on an A24 movie recently. Well, I did it last year. It just came out. It's called Past Lives. Really good movie. You should check it out. But I did background voices in that one. Background voice acting is a lot different than live action background acting. Because live action background, like additional voices for voiceover does pay out residuals. It's actually one of the better paying jobs. It pays a lot better than dubbing, even a lead role. It's just a weird way the contracts are set up. But we are barred from doing any of that type of work. All of that is on strike. The work that's not struck right now is video game voiceover, some of the dubbing contracts, and other work in that realm. But yeah, there's a lot of the voiceover stuff's been struck too. So, but there's some overlap there.
I got you. I know video games aren't on a strike. Yuri Lowenthal was talking about that yesterday with the Spider-Man panel.
Yeah, because he can go to Comic-Con and promote that.
Interesting. So, because I was kind of confused. It was like actors can't do interviews right now, but then I saw actors doing interviews talking about the strike. So I was just kidding. So you can't do interviews promoting new. How does that work?
I cannot promote any struck material generated under one of the contracts that is the subject of the current strike. So, for example, if I were in Oppenheimer right now, I would not be able to talk to you about Oppenheimer. I would not be able to promote that. But I can talk to you about Horangi, and I can talk to you about the other things that we've done prior.
Oh, so it's not like, oh, they can't do interviews, period. They just can't like promote their struck work, is what you're saying?
That's right, yeah. So some actors have sort of taken the oath to not promote any projects, but that's not a requirement.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Okay, cool. Well, now let's get it.
You'll notice that with San Diego Comic-Con this week, the actors who have major film projects that are on strike right now, those guys did not make it to Comic-Con to promote their projects. But the video game stuff that's not struck, we still get content for that. But that's why a lot of like the Hall H and a lot of the studios have backed out of that, and you're getting other content to fill it in instead at Comic-Con this year.
Yep, I think it was the Dune panel was supposed to happen there. That got canceled. Yeah, there's a bunch of other like live action film panels that of course got canceled. Did you see this one though? I thought this was so funny. Disney had a red carpet premiere for the new Haunted Mansion movie. Why that movie's coming out during the summer, I have no idea. But
it's a Halloween movie, yeah.
Yeah, it's so weird, but obviously, since the actors on strike, they cannot go to that red carpet premiere and promote it. So Disney said that they're the performers who be like in the character costumes, they have freaking Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and Goofy walk the red carpet because the artists can't be. I was like, what are we doing?
They said Disneyland cast members there. That's funny.
That is crazy. The only person that was there was the director, because of course the Directors Guild already took their deal and signed the contract, and everything is supposed to be good with them. But I think it's interesting when you hear people like Christopher Nolan be like, "Hey, I will not be doing another movie until this is all sorted out. Like, y'all need to figure this out. I'm not making another movie." So
it would be a bad look to do, and I'm happy he stands in solidarity with the performers that he works with, right?
Absolutely, 100%. Well, let's get into the performance everyone loves and is here for from you, Harangi and Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. First of all, congratulations on that, as more content is still coming down for the Call of Duty series. Huge video game series. I love the hell out of Call of Duty. I played the crap out of that growing up, especially the zombies mode on Call of Duty World at War. I used to play the hell out of that whenever I was sad or angry, just kill zombies, and still has not changed all these years later. And a huge childhood memory from just playing that, even though I should not be playing an R-rated game as a child. I still did, like Mortal Kombat and stuff like that. How does it feel to be a part of this world and to be able to add to the already extensive lore of this franchise?
Well, before I get to that, the zombies was a big one for me too. Last year, actually, I had my Xbox One and then collected all of the old titles that had zombies on them, and then my buddies and I, we just like did split screen co-op or played online, and all the way from World at War through the latest Black Ops that had it.
Who's your favorite zombies character?
My friends know my opinion on this one. I like the character of Takeo, except for the fact that a white actor plays him. That's the only part I don't like about him. That's the only part I don't like about him. I'm not gonna get into it. Tom Kane's a great actor. I love him as Yoda. I hope his recovery is going well. He's a great guy, but I don't love the fact that a white actor played that role. That's all I'll say.
No, I'm completely valid. I ain't gonna lie, bro. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was so confused. I watched the interview before I knew who voice actors were and stuff, and they were like, "This is Takeo." I was like, "No, that's not. Who is this?" I was so confused. It's like a huge disconnect. But yeah, like you said, Tom Kane's a great actor. But yeah, definitely, I completely understand why that would be very like nah. And I also love how like now with diversity being the forefront of a lot of these projects, we're getting a lot of these minorities being able to voice their respective characters, because back in the day Hank Azaria was voicing these characters and stuff like that, but now we're getting people like who's the girl who she just played Moon Girl on the Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur show. We're getting actors like that bringing their epic talent to all these great, Black and Asian and Hispanic characters. Eric Lopez, a phenomenal voice actor I've spoken to, took over the role of the B character in The Simpsons, who was originally played by Hank Azaria, was going for that sort of, Mexican, type thing right there. It's more authentic if you get someone who is actually going to do that role. So I definitely agree with you there. My favorite zombies character had to be either Rick Toffin or Dempsey, just because of Nolan North and Steve Bloom. I love their voices.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. Yeah.
So cool. Do you share this opinion though, that you do not like the transit crew from Black Ops 2? That's like Misty Lee, Russman, Sam.
Yeah, why did I not realize that was a different cast? Oh, wow. That game had a completely different cast, didn't it?
It did.
And afterwards, they went back to the old cast.
Yeah, it went to actually it was them, those four. Then it went to Alcatraz, which was a whole different other thing. And then for the last map, we went back to the old cast. Yeah.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. I mean, one time I saw Misty Lee and I didn't realize who she was. I recognized her, but then I didn't completely make the connect that, oh my gosh, that's Princess Leia's voice, and she sounds just like Carrie Fisher and all of these other roles that she's done. And I just remember like walking by her and not thinking of it, then later asking, that was Misty Lee, right? And then regretting not saying hi to her, because we worked on Bossy Bear together. And I saw her at the premiere for it, and I didn't say hi because I just didn't make the connect that I was working with big voice actors like her. But anyway.
Wow, that's so crazy.
Yeah. It's just one of those weird things.
Yo, that's awesome, man. You got a great.
And I had seen her in interviews, but like seeing her in real life, and she's like way shorter than I expected her to be. But I meet a lot of people, and they're way shorter than I expect them to be because I'm 6'2", and so it's kind of weird. Like everybody looks huge on TV. Like they're small on TV, but you think they're gonna be large, and then you meet them, and then they're like, they come up to like this height.
I've noticed that with a lot of voice actors, a lot of them are like shorter. Like Corey Burton's like 5'4". Jim Cummings is very short. Jason Marsden, phenomenal voice actor, short. I think Phil Lamar is kind of short too. No, he's not, because I met him at a con. He's not too short, but a lot of these voice actors are like really short.
And Corey Burton plays Transformers and gods, and you would think he would be, you know, as large as the voices
As
are.
large as life.
Not the case. You'd think he'd be the size of a Transformer. Like, I'm waiting, but no.
Yo, yes, bro. It's so crazy. Anyways, back to Horangi in Call of Duty. You talked about creating that voice, which is great like that. What did you imbue in the character of Horangi, and what do you like enjoy about him as a character as a whole?
So Horangi is the Korean word for tiger. By the way, you roll that R really well, but a lot of people just say Horangi, and that's totally fine. So that's easier for you.
I'm making up for mispronouncing your name in that announcement video.
Yeah, that's good. Your last name is Morales, right? Are you you Hispanic?
I'm Puerto Rican, Black and Puerto Rican.
Oh, okay. Do you speak Spanish?
Don't expose me. No, I hate that I don't. I'm taking Spanish classes this semester.
That's fine. That's fine. Whatever.
So,
no, I was just only reason I asked is because a lot of Spanish speakers I've met say the name really well, but that's just because the phonetics, I guess, of Korean and Spanish are similar enough that the pronunciation just rolls off the tongue. You know, I hear English speakers, on the other hand, I've heard every version of the name. You know, Harangi, Harangai. Harangi. I've heard every mispronunciation of it.
Oh my gosh.
Anyway, coming up with that voice. So yeah, Horangi is the Korean word for tiger, and so coming up with that voice was sort of thinking about what the spirit of a tiger sounds like, sort of adding a growl to his voice. I'm a Call of Duty fan, so I know what Ghost sounds like. I know what Captain Price sounds like, and so, you know, it was an honor for me to be able to create a Call of Duty character that was Korean that would sort of be able to hang out at a pub with those guys, right? Come on, Captain Price, drinks on the house. You know, like it would have to live within that environment. Those characters live in the same universe and would have to be able to interact.
Yes. Oh my God, Call of Duty has so many iconic protagonists. I just think about all of them. You got Mason. You got Frank Woods. You have Hudson. Oh, bro, Call of Duty really has because I'm just like sitting here thinking about it. You just said two. I got Captain Price, Soap. Can't forget Soap. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can't forget Soap.
Oh my god.
You know, like the newer ones too. You know, like Alejandro Vargas, like all those new guys. Yeah.
Yes, I love that Call of Duty is still making like these memorable protagonist characters, even like so many years into its anniversary. It's really awesome, really cool. A lot of cool Call of Duty. You know, bro, Call of Duty turns 20 years old this year with the release of the first Call of Duty. Yeah, and that's really, really freaking awesome that you get to add to this expansive lore and canon. So happy for you in that.
Yeah, even in the smallest way possible, and the fans have sort of run wild with it and come up with their own theories for what this character is or isn't. And they ask me questions like, "What's Horangi's favorite color?" And I go, "I don't know, green." And then we expand the lore that way. But yeah, even in the smallest way possible, though, we'd love to see him in campaign. We'd love to see him interact with the other people. That would be kind of fun.
Did you get to meet Brian Bloom?
No, I didn't. He was not in any of our recording sessions, though we had a number of the writers on staff were there. We had producers, directors, but he was not there, no.
Bro's the busiest man on earth, I hear. So
shoot. Oh, because what do you mean? Oh, you tried to interview him?
I don't like, bro. I hate dealing with agents sometimes. Not that I hate them. I get you have to protect your talent, but sometimes it's just like, I don't know. I wish there was a way from, I don't know. Of course, having an agent as an actor is very important, of course, to get roles and to offer protections from people who who aren't as well versed and well trained as someone like me or maybe like Dan Allen, who of course you've been interviewed by,
Yeah,
people
Dan's
like
great.
us who really put our time and dedication to research and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just wish it was, because I love Brian Bloom's Captain America. I think it's one of the best
Yeah, he's
voices
a
for
very
this.
talented voice actor, but he doesn't really do social media, and I don't think he does
Yeah.
interviews, and that's probably where you're running into issues. And so he's a man in the shadows. Nobody's ever met him, nobody's ever seen him, but he writes this universe.
When I found it, I was like, "Oh, so that's okay. That makes so much sense. Got you." Yeah, shout out to him. Um, where do you hope the character of Harangi shows up next?
Oh, I want to see him in a future Modern Warfare campaign or a Black Ops campaign or something. I feel like there's too much material there. Even if they came up with this shit on accident, there's too much material there to just throw this thing away. Uh, Come on, the concept of a masked Korean man who doesn't show his identity and is sort of this master of taking out high value targets and sort of getting away with it. That's so cool, man. Um, yeah, I'd love to sort of explore the depth of that character and uh, explore it in further nuance because up until this point, outside of the TikToks and the other nonsense where I've used his voice, um, the only official stuff you've heard him do is like the yelling in the heat of battle, and I would love to sort of lend context to that character outside of a battle situation, outside of just him being sprayed by bullets.
Absolutely, man. Well, now let's transition to my fun part of my interviews, Weird and Wacky. It's a segment of the interview. We have 1 minute to answer a series of weird and random questions. The current record for this is 15 questions in 1 minute. Do you
Oh my
think
gosh,
you think you could beat that time?
who beat the record? I mean, who's the record holder right now?
I believe the record holder, last time I checked, is voice actor David Boat, who plays Samuel Stillinger in Call of
Oh
Duty.
yeah, I know David. All right. I don't know if I can beat him, but we'll try.
All right, man. Don't never say never. I'm about to start the timer in 3, 2, 1. Favorite color?
Green.
Favorite dessert item?
Lemon meringue cheesecake.
Last movie you watched?
What was the last movie I watched? Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning. Part 1.
Actor you wish you were best friends with?
Keanu Reeves.
Favorite thing to eat for dinner?
Pasta.
Best video game you've ever played?
Best video game I've ever played. The Last of Us Part 1.
Least favorite thing to eat ever?
I'm not a big mushrooms fan.
Stupid thing you did as a kid?
Stupid thing I did as a kid. Beat up my brother.
Would you rather smell like rancid cheese or 5-day-old garbage?
Rancid cheese.
Favorite color of shoes?
Blue.
10. You got 10.
Terrible. I did terrible.
That's like the average. No, man. Next time I bring you on for this interview, you're gonna go fly with flying colors. But last question I love to end all of my interviews off with before I get into it is, Nick, I've had so much fun talking to you and nerding out about all this stuff and really getting to know about you more as a person. You're awesome, dude. Thank you so much for joining me. So my final question to you is, there's so much stuff going on around the world, obviously with the strikes going on, but of course we have a lot of laws and things happening in America too, and things happening around the world. What would you say to people during this current time that we live in? If you had a mic and everyone could hear one message to give hope, to inspire, or to keep everyone everyone's sanity, what would you say to everyone?
I probably tell everyone the same thing I have to tell myself is that ideally life is about peaks and valleys and navigating those successfully. There are high highs and there are high lows, low lows. Last year was a really high for me. I had a really great year, probably the best year of my career so far. This year we're looking at a lot of strikes and a lot of downtime, but sort of making the best of your low lows is probably the best advice that I can give. Find meaning in those lows and don't take those highs for granted.
Perfectly said. Beautifully said as well. Nick, thank you so much for joining me, my friend. Is there anything you want to plug or promote before we head off for today?
Looks like you got it down here. That's my Twitter right there. That's my Instagram right there. I'm about to go live on Twitch. It's the same handle as all of my other social media, my TikTok, my Instagram, my Twitter. So come check us out on Twitch right now. Sometimes we stream with other COD voice actors. Sometimes we stream with Apex Legends actors. Sometimes we stream with non-actors, and we play with fans. And so come on in. We have a great time. Yeah, that's about it.
What system you play on?
I play on PC, but I also, like, when I play with my friends, I play on the PS5 in the other room. But
get me on them streams. Get me on them streams for real. For real. For real. I need that.
It's crossplay. Yeah, you should join us sometime.
Bet, definitely. I got you, man. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining me on a great installment of Jammo Interviews. Follow me, follow Nick. Head over to the Twitch stream right after this. Hope you guys have a great day. Nick, I have a couple gifts coming your way that I get to all of my guests at the end of these interviews. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace out, guys. And I'll see you on my next YouTube video. Absolutely.